We are going to talk about quasi-contract. What is quasi-contract? Quasi-contract means implied contract. We have already seen express contract, implied contract, and quasi-contract, which is known as implied contract. So we have express contract, which may be oral or written. Implied contract, that is what is known as quasi-contract. Tacit contract. Tacit contract means what? A contract that has got to be inferred from the conduct of the parties. So far as quasi-contract is concerned, it is an omnibus. See, a contract that is implied by conduct, that is what is known as tacit contract. A contract that is implied under law, that is what is known as quasi-contract. So, implied contract is also known as quasi-contract. A contract that is implied by conduct, that is what is known as tacit contract. For example, we are waiting for the bus. We immediately get into the bus and demand the ticket. Well, our behavior shows that we would like to take the bus for our travel and would like to go to our destination, which is on the route that is actually specified in the name board of the bus. Therefore, by your own conduct, you are actually getting, for example, dropping a coin for the purpose of purchasing milk in a milk booth through automatic machine. That is also a case of an implied or quasi-contract. Quasi-contract means implied contract, or it is also known as constructive contract. Law construes a contract as per Halsbury's Laws of England. That's a famous book. You can cite it anywhere, whether it is in India or anywhere. Halsbury's Laws of England. So there is what is known as constructive contract. In our own words, certain relation resembling those of contract. So these are the three meanings which you should bear in mind. Quasi-contract means, number one, implied contract, or certain relation resembling those of contract, or constructive contract. What is the main principle on which the quasi-contract is based? Nobody should take advantage over the ignorance of the other. Nobody should exploit the other, taking advantage over his innocence. So this is the basis on which the quasi-contract is actually structurized, or it has been built. So having understood this, we will actually study the various types of quasi-contracts as envisaged under the Contract Act. Section 64, 65 we have already spoken while talking about minors contract. If any money that has been collected under a voidable contract, when the contract itself could not be performed, then it has got to be refunded, the money that has been taken as advance. For example, a famous musician has taken some money towards advance for rendering his music at a music hall. On that particular day, he has fallen sick, and the entire money which has taken as advance must be refunded under what act? Under quasi-contract. In other words, gentlemen, if you go to a petrol bunk, you actually put petrol for a sum of rupees 70 and you give a 100 rupee note, 30 rupees balance must be refunded to you under what? Under quasi-contract. See, money that has been paid in excess, the exact amount that has been appropriated, and then the balance has got to be refunded to the owner. So under what principle? Means quasi-contract. It is implied. It goes without saying. So quasi-contract, here you must understand, that actually means implied contract. Now, what are the various types of implied contract you find under the Contract Act? That is, Section 64 is where it also becomes void. The money has got to be refunded. We have already spoken about that earlier. Now, so far as Contract Act is concerned, Section 68 up to 72, these are the sections that are actually dealt with for the purpose of studying quasi-contract. Now, simply remember this question you can very easily answer. Follow the various headings which I have given in my chart also. See, what are the various types of quasi-contract envisaged under the Contract Act? Number one, money had and received. That is first item. Second, quantum muriat, MERUIT, quantum muriat. That is the second. Third is necessaries. Fourth is account stated. Fifth is finder of the lost goods. What, sir? These are the 5 important topics under which you have got to study the quasi-contract. Money had and received, quantum muriat, necessaries, account stated, and finder of the lost goods. These are the 5 important headings under which we have to study the quasi-contract. First, money had and received. Let us quickly disclose what are the salient features that are involved. Money had and received. Again, this can be actually classified under 3 heads. Money paid by the plaintiff to the defendant. Sir, who is the plaintiff? Who is the defendant? Plaintiff is the aggrieved party. Defendant is the person who has been responsible for causing the grievance, for causing the loss to the complainant. The complainant is the aggrieved party. The party against whom remedy is sought, against whom remedy is redressal is sought, that party is known as the defendant. Therefore, money paid by the plaintiff to the defendant, number 1, by mistake. Number 2, by force. Number 3, without consideration. We can very easily understand this. Where money is paid by mistake, I want to pay money to Y. Instead of paying to Y, I give it to Z. Now what Z should do? He should actually return the money. If postman delivers some articles to a wrong person, that person who has received that must actually hand it over to the postman or to the proper person whose address is actually given under the cover. So this is what is known as, this is the principle of quasi-contract. Money paid by mistake. Whenever money is paid by mistake, that money has got to be returned. That is one thing. Then second thing is coercion, force, where any person has extracted the money by force, see, which the other person is not bound to pay. Well, any person who has taken the money by force, he has got to return it. And not only that, it will come under the criminal law also, where he has misappropriated the money. So he will have to face the criminal law for using force, which is considered to be an offense. Then where money is not, where the transaction is not supported by consideration, where a party has given money for supply of goods, say vegetables, having taken the money, the person who has agreed to supply vegetables, if he does not supply vegetables, you can file a suit asking him to refund the money. The purpose for which money has been given is towards supply of vegetables. If he has not supplied the vegetables, he has got to actually file a suit and then recover the money when it is not supported by consideration. So these are the 3 circumstances under which money can be recovered. That is under section 72. 72, where money paid by the plaintiff to the defendant by mistake, by coercion, or without consideration. That is. Then the second category is money paid by the plaintiff to third parties on behalf of the defendant. Section 69. This is an implied reimbursement, a typical case. Here is a case, Great Northern Railway versus Swafield. A horse was consigned by one Mr. X to Y. The station master took delivery of the horse and then kept it in his station. But Mr. Y, who happened to be the consignee, he did not turn up. As a consequence of which, the station master requested the fodder supplier to supply the fodder and incurred expenses. He incurred expenses for feeding the horse. Then, when the consignee came one fine morning to take delivery of the horse, the station master insisted that you have got to pay the money which I have actually incurred towards supply of fodder to the horse. Then, the particular consignee, namely Y, he has to pay the money because this has been paid by the plaintiff to a third party on behalf of the defendant. That money has got to be paid. So, where money, for example, surety, on account of a guarantee given by the surety, the principal debtor pays the money. if the principal debtor does not return the money to the creditor, creditor will automatically look upon the surety to pay the money, and surety will pay the money. Will he keep quiet? He will step into the shoes of the creditor and collect the money by way of subrogation. So, money paid by the plaintiff on behalf of the defendant to third parties. Likewise, money section 70, it speaks about money received by the defendant from third parties on behalf of the plaintiff. Again, please understand it properly. Money received by the defendant from third parties on behalf of the plaintiff. So here, the defendant owes money. He has collected the money from third parties, and that money is not his money, it is the money of the plaintiff. For example, we can Kanyalal versus sales tax officer Benares versus Kanyalal Mukundalal. This is a famous case where the sales tax officer collected enhanced sales tax from the consumer, and the sales tax money which he has actually collected from the consumer has got to be paid over to the government, the state government. Now the state government found that the particular dealer, namely the merchant who has actually sold the goods and collected tax, he has collected tax excessively from the customer. So the government actually returns the tax to the dealer. Now the money that has been returned by the government to the dealer, whose money is it? It is the money of the customer. Therefore, money received by this dealer from the government is the money that has been collected excessively from the customer. Therefore, money received by the defendant from third parties which are collected on behalf of the plaintiff must be returned to the plaintiff. Money received by the defendant from third parties on behalf of the plaintiff. So he has got to return. So these are the instances. So money paid by the plaintiff to the defendant by mistake, by coercion, without consideration. Money paid by the plaintiff to third parties on behalf of the defendant. Money received by the defendant from third parties on behalf of the plaintiff. In fact, there is one case where you see there is a quasi-contract principles. That is where Damodar Pillai versus Secretary of the State, where a tank was actually repaired and desilt work was actually carried on account of which this particular person who was actually owning lands abutting the field, on account of the desilting process in the tank, water actually got accumulated and he used the water. So here is a case where this fellow also received a benefit. So money that has actually been enjoyed and money that has been incurred by way of expense by the government for stagnating water, and this fellow has actually been benefited. So person who has benefited on account of the intervention of third parties, he should actually reimburse everybody who has been enjoying the benefit. They got to refund the money that has been incurred by way of expense for desilting the tank in order to enable these people to irrigate their land and to allow water to stagnate in that pond. So this is a case which will come under money received by the defendant from third parties on behalf of the plaintiff. So this is how you should remember money had and received. The next important thing is quantum muriat. Quantum, quantum, M-E-R-U-I-T, muriat. Now, what does it mean? What is the meaning of this particular Latin term? Quantum of work that has been done by a person must be rewarded according to the merit. Please understand. Quantum of work that has been done by an employee must be rewarded according to the merit. That is what is known as quantum muriat. The quantum muriat contract are divisible or of two categories. Divisible contract and indivisible contract. A divisible contract can be divided. For example, in shipping transaction, normally the importer and exporter enter into an agreement. The moment the goods are placed on board of the ship, they will actually give instruction to the bank on the presentation of the bill of lading So this amount has got to be by the exporter. Supposing the exporter actually exports goods to the importer, and after putting the consignment on board of the ship, when he presents the bill of lading, 10% of the value of the goods will be paid. And then when the goods consignment actually reach the place of destination, namely the port of where the goods have got to be imported, again another 20% has got to be paid. And when the goods are actually delivered at site, then again another 40% has got to be paid. And then again when the machines are actually installed, again another 20% will be paid. And then when the machine has been started and the machine has started functioning, again another balance percentage has got to be paid. So this is how conveniently they can make the contract as a divisible contract. So by virtue, even construction work, when once the house comes up to the basement level, this much is given. When it comes to the ceiling limit, this much of amount must be given. When ceiling is completed, this much of amount must be given. So on and so forth. So this is what is known as divisible contract. But there are certain transactions which are not divisible at all. It is only when the work is completed, money has got to be paid. Humorously, supposing you go to a particular hairdresser for tonsuring your head. Supposing that fellow has tonsured half your head and demands money, sir, whatever work I have done, sir, please pay. See, no, you cannot pay. Unless the full work is done, then only you can actually pay the money. For having done the quantum merit, quantum of work that has been done must be rewarded according to the merit. Therefore, you see, unless the work is completed, sir, I want to go to the city station. So here I am at a remote corner in Bangalore. I will ask the auto rickshaw fellow to take me to the city station. Unless he drops me in the city station, I will not pay him the money. Contract for executed consideration, you remember? So supposing he leaves me in the middle, sir, you go some other taxi, you take some other vehicle, I will not pay him. What is it? You yourself engage some other vehicle to take me to that particular place. You have an arrangement. This is the contract that you have entered into. Unless you complete the work. Painting a picture, I have done half the way. Sir, whatever work I have done, please pay. I won't. Unless you paint fully. So this is indivisible. So there are two types of contract. Cutter versus Powell. Very funny case. In that particular case, a master of the ship agreed to serve the entire term of voyage. He has agreed to actually act as a master of the ship. But what happened, there was a 6 months duration under which the contract was actually entered into. 6 months he has got to travel and act as a master of the ship, as a captain. Then it so happened that this particular captain, namely the master, he expired on account of heart attack. Then the question arose whether money has got to be... No, the company, strictly speaking, it is what is known as strict interpretation of law, where they will say unless you serve the entire term. This is a vis major class. Vis major class means act of God. Wantonly he has not expired. He has expired on account of heart attack or some other reason suddenly. Therefore, on account of court has got to interfere, and no doubt court will actually grant compensation on gratis. But strictly speaking, on principle, the amount will be paid only after completion of the journey. So here also, up to whatever extent he has actually done, that amount has got to be paid. But on gratis, court will always order. This is an extreme case where a person has kicked off his bucket and he should be, his family should not suffer, and they will pay. That is different on gratis. So this is what is known as quantum merit. Quantum of work that is done must be rewarded according to the merit. The next one is necessaries. We have seen in the case of miners. So a miner who has got to be supplied with food, shelter and clothing, necessarily whatever things that are required to the miner as indispensable, essential, basic needs. Well, money that has actually been, the goods that have been supplied as necessaries. So for that value of the goods, money must be paid by the miner. So a contract with a miner is binding on him for necessaries. So that is the case where under section 68, under quasi-contract principle, money could be collected in the case of supply of goods to a minor or a lunatic or a person who is mentally deranged. In all these cases, it has got to be collected under section 68 of the Contract Act for necessaries. Then the next important thing is account stated. I want you to understand it step by step. Account stated means what? Account itself is based on a principle of quasi-contract. Any account that is stated, when once it is produced before the court, and whatever is actually shown in the account, it is legally considered to be valid. What account book? An account book that has been kept in the regular course of business. That is why it has got so much of sanctity. An account book that has been audited, an account book that has been disclosed to the income tax officer and sales tax officer, which bears the seal of the income tax officer and sales tax officer. No other document need be produced for proving a contract other than the account book. If the account book shows debit or credit, that has got to be taken as a gospel truth. So that is why here account stated will always be the basis of quasi-contract. But I will tell you some important cases which are of practical interest. In fact, there was a famous actor, I don't want to mention the name of the person, there was a famous actor who used to be regarded as a matinee idol, and in all love scenes he will come and act as a hero, and he used to dominate the entire Tamil pictures in those days. But there was another person who was very keen on taking pictures on mythological stories. Now it so happened that the income tax officers raided that particular producer who was taking these mythological films. Now in his house, in one diary, you call it as Anamat book. Anamat book means anonymous book. In that book, an entry was found that this particular matinee hero has been paid nearly about 20 lakhs. In Anamat book, that entry was found. But what happened? Immediately, the income tax department gave a notice to that matinee idol and said, how is it that you are not disclosed in your return this 20 lakhs which has been paid to you according to the film producer of these mythological pictures, in whose house we have found this book, Anamat book. Then the film actor said, whatever you find in some diaries or Anamat book, you cannot actually make me a victim for all those entries that are found in that book. You have got to prove it. So many people may write so many things in the anonymous book, and they may invite the income tax officer to conduct a raid and say that they have paid so much of money and all that. You must independently prove what is under criminal law corroboration, support. You should have a support. If this money has been paid according to this Anamat book, how he has paid? You check my bank account. Do you find any sort of credit there? So independently it has got. Mere entries in the account will not actually be considered as a be-all and end-all to prove a quasi-contract. It must have been regularly, it must have been entered, and it must be supported by vouchers, and it must be supported by auditors and all that, verification and all that. So then only any entries. That is why even for goods sold and delivered, you will find the advocates will ask the person to produce the ledger. So if it is a sales ledger, the sales, where is the entry? You will ask. You will ask the particular dealer who has sold the goods to the consumer or customer who happens to be a defendant in this case. He will say, where is the entry there? Is this book actually audited? Have you shown this to the income tax? Everything you will show, and then a decree will be passed. So this is what is known as account stated. Then the next important thing is necessaries, account stated, and then finder of the lost goods. These are the entries. Money had and received, quantum myriad, then necessaries, account stated, finder of the lost goods, section 71. Whoever finds the goods belonging to the other, he must trace the owner and he should return the goods. Typical principle of quasi-contract, finder of the lost goods. Is there any contract between the finder and the true owner? No. Section 71 envisages that it is the duty of the finder to trace the owner and give the goods to him. It is implied under law, quasi-contract. So, a finder of the lost goods is considered to be a bailee. Bailee means a person who is a custodian of the property which has been lost by the owner. So, what are the finder of the lost goods? I got to trace the owner and hand over the goods. So, under quasi-contract principle. What are all the circumstances there? What are the rights of the finder of the lost goods? The finder of the lost goods, he has got a right to exercise lien over the goods. L-I-E-N. Lien means right to detain the goods, right to retain or detain the goods till the money that has been announced as an award, as a reward. Award is actually gallantry deeds and all that. Reward means for any particular work an individual has done, he will be given a reward. For catching hold of the thief, we reward the police fellow apart from what he is entitled for under the government codes. Now, CODS codes, under the government code. Now, here, a person who has actually been able to find the goods belonging to other and a reward has been announced in the paper, he is entitled for that reward. Till the reward is paid, he can retain the goods or detain the goods. Number one, he has got a right. Then he has got a right to claim for the loss which he has incurred. Supposing a person has actually incurred loss. Here is a person who has actually taken delivery of the goods and immediately the customs official as an agent, he is a clearing agent, he has cleared the goods. Suddenly custom agent comes and says, you have got to pay the duty. No, he will be paying the duty from out of his pocket. The owner, the consignee has got to pay the duty. The importer, exporter has sent the goods. The importer has got to pay the import duty. On behalf of the importer, his clearing agent has incurred the expenses as out-pocket expenses and he has paid. Therefore, he has got to reimburse him. So, this is a case where a person has got to reimburse. There is a finder of the lost goods also the same principle. If any additional expenses has been incurred by the finder, that has got to be made good. Then, the finder of the lost goods has got a right to sell. What are all the circumstances under which the finder of the lost good could sell the goods? Number one, where the real owner could not be found. In that case, after giving adequate notice in the paper, he can sell the goods. Number two, where the person has been traced and in spite of the repeated requests showing his expenses that has been incurred with regard to this consignment that has been retained by him, if the owner refuses to pay, then also he can, through court, he can sell the goods. That is the second circumstance. The third circumstance is where the goods are of a perishable nature and they are in the danger of being perished suddenly. So, the finder can actually sell the goods and realize the proceeds and give it to the owner. Supposing the next instance is where the expenses incurred by the finder has exceeded the real value, exceeded the value, 2/3 value of the goods, then also under section 71, the finder of those goods can actually sell it. So, these are all instances where quasi-contract has been envisaged. Gentlemen, these are a very simple topic. If you remember these headings, namely 5 headings: money had and received, quantum myriad, necessaries, account stated, finder of the lost goods. Quasi-contract is over. You can just conveniently you can write any question on these topics. So, thank you very much. With that, we think we are finishing the entire Contract Act. We will have a little bit of revision in the next session. Thank you.